Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today to talk about Grand Europe. We are so grateful to have two wine experts with us, Paul and Tim. I'm just thrilled to hear all that you have to share with us about this wine experience. Paul, why don't you get us started?
Well, sure. And I'm going to introduce my dear friend Tim Gazer, who is not only a master sommelier, but has recently written a book called Message in the Bottle. If you ever wanted to know anything about tasting wine, that book is your guide. I think there will be sommelier students in the Master of Wine or Master Sommelier program that will start calling that the Bible pretty soon. So absolutely great book and tons of fun. And Tim, we're going to visit some fun places. So why don't you say hello and talk a little bit about what you're doing?
Hey, everybody. Hello from New Mexico. And yeah, Paul and I go way back. We're not going to say how far back, but it's literally a couple of decades of traveling together, teaching together, getting in trouble together. And I'm really looking forward to this cruise. It's going to be spectacular. And I would dare that it's going to be kind of one of those experiences of a lifetime, seeing some of the most beautiful country you can possibly imagine. And then having the two of us with a combined way too many decades in the wine business talking about amazing wines from Germany, from Austria, from Hungary, and from other places, not only in tastings, but also with the superb food on the cruise line and the dinners that we're going to host. So that's it in a nutshell, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah, KK, you have a map you can put up, don't you? Because I think we could talk through a little bit the where we're going to stop and what we're going to see. But we start in Amsterdam. There we are. Absolutely magical city. I love Amsterdam, and wonderful beer. So don't think Tim and I only drink wine. There's awfully good beer in Amsterdam. And we'll have the rice tafel, and we'll have all sorts of bizarre and wonderful Dutch food. And then we hit the Rhine River. And I don't know anybody who knows more about the wines of the Rhine than Tim Gazer. So, Tim, talk about the Ahr, the Nahe, the Mosel, the Rheingau, the Mittelrhein, the Rheinhessen, my goodness.
Well, that's a short request with a really long answer. So I just think, common perception of German wines is pretty narrow because a lot of the wines that find their way over here, at least historically, have been off-dry to slightly sweet and even sweeter. But the range of German wines now is just like really broad. There's a lot of different styles covered. So many of the wines are dry, which I think a lot of people in the U.S. don't know about. There's some brilliant Pinot Noirs that are made, but also things like Pinot Blanc and Pinot Gris, even some excellent Chardonnay. And what could be one of the best kept secrets about German wine is Sekt is the traditional method sparkling wines. Yeah. So there's this huge broad range. And I also think that, German wine as a category is just one of the most versatile wines at the table with food. So there's lots to discover.
Well, and then we come close enough to France that I'm going to insist we rope in some French wines. And so I'm looking forward to wines of Alsace, food of Alsace. I've always said that if I died and went to heaven, I hope the chef is from Alsace. And Alsace, same thing, lots of different kinds of wines. Obviously, some of the greatest Rieslings in the world, but I think Alsace has made Gewürztraminer of higher quality than anywhere else on the planet, and Pinot Blanc. And then, what the heck, Tim? How far is the Rhine from Champagne? We probably ought to bring in some bubbly from Champagne as well.
I think, well, we would do everyone a disservice if we didn't include Champagne, Paul. Yeah, and again, and frankly, as the crow flies, it's not that far from Alsace, right? But I agree about Alsace just in terms of, probably you could argue the best Gewürztraminers made on the planet, certainly Pinot Gris, Pinot Blanc, and actually really good Pinot Noir as well, and good sparkling wine again. So Alsace as a place offers so much in terms of versatility, but also deliciousness, if we can use that word.
Yeah. And then we take the canal across over to the Danube, and soon we find ourselves in Austria, where we not only get to actually go on the Wachau River, the home of some of Austria's greatest wines. Unfortunately, I don't think there will be any Wiener Gemischtes left by the time we get there. But
No.
Vienna is it's the only city in Europe, the only capital that has an appellation within the city limits.
That's right. That's and frankly, the only, capital city in Europe that actually has a wine region that surrounds it. So,
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
really historical one that goes back well over 1,000 years and was well known. You and I, Paul, being such music fans and musicians, well known to people like Beethoven and Schubert and on and on and on. So yeah, a lot of history and incredible stuff there.
Yeah, and of course the most popular varietal there being Gruner Veltliner. But again, they also make a broad selection of wines.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Gruner Veltliner for sure. I'm sure many people who will watch this may not have had the chance to try one, but they're absolutely delicious. It's one of my favorite aromatic white wines. And then just a broad range of styles of Riesling, most of them dry, but just superb.
Yeah. And then we wrap up with Hungary, Budapest, one of the most magical cities in Europe. We have to eat our way through Vienna with the Wiener Schnitzel, the Sachertorte, and the there's one more that I'm obviously missing in the mix there. And then we go on to Budapest, where we get to eat fabulous food, goulash, and we get to drink everything from Écrit Bicaver, the bull's blood, to the wine of kings and the king of wines, Tokayasu.
Yes, yes. And that has to be, you could argue, the greatest botrytis dessert wine on the planet. And certainly there's a lot of fantastic dry wines made from the ferment grape too, that I'm a huge fan of. So great stuff there.
Yeah. So what we're offering our guests is a guided tour of all of these wine regions, a guided tasting of all of these wines, fabulous food from the chefs of AmaWaterways, and we have been known to tell a joke or two in the process. So I expect we'll all have a pretty good time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I would just like to invite everyone to join us once again on Grand Europe in 2025 and let these gentlemen tell you even more about the great wines of Europe. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, KK.